Okay, folks, welcome to the Grown Up 90s podcast. I am Soul Criminal riding solo this week. John Regal's got some family stuff to do, or pools to clean, or something Dad like to handle along those lines. So thank you for joining me. If you are listening for the first time, you likely are not familiar with how I speak or approach things, and I am very non-filtered. If you listened to last week's podcast, I've offended some people. I've lost a couple of friends. So I'm not gonna lie. I don't really hold back on what I'm gonna say, and it wasn't really 90s oriented. It was based upon what was going on in this world right now with the cancel culture and the rioting. Actually, it wasn't cancel culture, but it was more the rioting and the looting and the defund the police and police reform and a lot of that stuff. If you want to listen to it, it's up somewhere. No video, just audio. This week, I'm going to discuss something that always bothers me. Is people offended. Now, the other day, I was on Twitter, and I had seen something pop up that mentioned something about Jenna Marbles quitting, and I didn't see her video pop up on my feed on YouTube. So I went, and she had a video, a message, and I watched it, and I couldn't help but being upset. Now, if you know me, you know that we have a history together. Before she was Jenna Marbles, she was just Jenna to me, and Jenna Mari, and that's how I know her. I don't know her as Jenna Marbles, which honestly, there's no difference. It's just there's the YouTube version, and then there's the friend model version that I knew. Now, some people are familiar with, what our relationship was and creatively and, what she has meant to me. Now, I immediately couldn't help because I was so upset. Now, I immediately couldn't help but just get, not enraged, but just get really upset for her. She has done so much for so many people, like me especially, and directly, being friends and working with her in a creative capacity, that she means so much to me. And she had taken her ability to work with people and be funny and be entertaining and all that stuff, and reaching out to people through her platform. Now, we living in this time of 2020 where people are upset for various reasons, whether it's racial tensions or political reasons or work reasons and personal reasons and whatever else. We need more escapes from the craziness and what's going on. And what she does and what she's done for people is do that, at 10 minutes at a whack every week. And she's done it for a decade. And her following is now going to lose that. And I know firsthand from her fans that I've been fortunate enough to speak to via social media and meet via social media, that they are very, very upset, as along with myself. And because the actions of a few that would decide to bully her about stuff that she had done a decade ago. I mean, that's ridiculous. And that's my problem. And I'll get into that later, but I want to go over some of the points, some of the things that she says in her video, and kind of just comment on those real quick before I get into an overall thought on people being offended and things of that nature. So I've outlined, 5 points that she makes that I'd like to comment on and kind of release on, if you may. So here is, I think, the first point. I don't even remember what points they're made, but they're made. Let's go.
For you, but I'm literally not trying to put out negative things into the world. I think there was a time when having all of my old content exist on the internet showed how much I have grown up as a person, which I'm very proud of. And I think now it's hard for that content to exist at all, because I think people watch it and don't bother to look at when it was posted or, care about what path I took to get to where I am. It offends them now. And if that's the case, where people will watch something and be offended now, I don't want it to exist.
Now, I can respect her idea on not wanting to offend people, period. I mean, nobody necessarily wants to offend people, especially nice people and wonderful people such as yourself. Now, me, I don't care if I offend people. I don't believe in... if you're purposely trying to offend people, fine. I mean, or be provocative or whatever else. I mean, I'm a creative person, so I do try to find ways to provoke and to be provocative, not necessarily offend people. If I have this thing where if you're offended, it's because you choose to be, and I think that's a personal decision, not and it's not necessarily a conscious decision by whoever you are offended by. I grew up in a time where you could say things and do things and people didn't cry about it. And if you got offended by it, you ignored it and you moved on. And the fact that you can take somebody who's literally not controversial, who enjoys what she does and has a positive, joyful way to do things, to bully somebody who's put out hundreds and hundreds of videos about one video that wasn't even what they said it was. It was the, she had mentioned on here the Nicki Minaj thing that she had done, which I know she had apologized for before. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Now, we live in a time where everybody's offended, and where everybody's, not everybody, but there's a movement now to erase the past, and it's silly. And the past is there, and the history is there for all of us to learn from. We all learn from our mistakes. We are taught to learn from our mistakes, and you move forward and you grow. And trying to get rid of that, in essence, like with her, if you have it on tape, whether it's you're a musician or a YouTube person or an actor, an actress, whatever, and you've done these things in the past. I mean, getting rid of it doesn't mean it didn't happen. And letting it exist shows real people who understand, including yourself, where you've come over time and what you used to be. Yes, it can be embarrassing and it can be upsetting, but it's also part of your growth, and we're all constantly growing. And to try to get rid of that or have people bring that up is stupid. I mean, I get on my co-host a lot for bringing up stuff from the past to kind of throw at you when he's upset, and it's ridiculous because there's no point in it. You did this once. Well, I mean, I don't care. I've done a lot of things once, or twice, or whatever else, and I think it's stupid. And I commend her for bringing it up and looking at this head on. But I don't think it's right that she has to do that, to bring up something that she's already brought up before, and for people to bring up stuff that they probably weren't even old enough to even watch. Because I'm presuming the people who bring this up are not of a ripe old age of life experience. So my next part that she had mentioned, I don't remember what it was. Again, we'll just play it here.
People that were offended that I did blackface as Nicki Minaj in 2011, and I'll show you the clip. It's incredibly cringy and embarrassing. This is private. It has been private for quite some time, but it looks like this.
All right, so here's my issue. She's not blackface. She's not. She's tan face, regardless. And she was always a tan person back then, from what I noticed. And when we used to shoot, there was be tanning everything, goo all over everything we shot on, and everything that she wore. And the fact that people bring it up because a white person is making fun of a jacked up black person is stupid in the first place. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I think that people who do get bothered by these such things have such an issue with themselves because they're digging. And we constantly see it all the time, they're digging. But I give her credit for bringing this up and literally showing, not just talking about it, but actually showing it and confronting it. And I really found that important to bring up and show. And that's, I mean, I don't really have much to personally say about that, but giving her the credit for being the woman that she is, for doing such a thing. Next thing she brought up was the music video for the, I don't know, what is it? Swing That Dick or something like that, which I thought the song was hilarious when she did it. But there's an Asian part in it that I thought was hilarious. Now, I am Asian. I am of Asian descent. I find no offense to this. You grow up listening to people talk like this and make fun of stuff like this, and it happens all the time. It is what it is. You know, there's no hate involved and whatnot, but here it is real quickly. All right. What is it? Bring my ching chong ding dong and shakes it, something like King Kong. I don't know. So anyway, and she's wearing an Asian hat made of leaves and whatever, and a mustache. But there's Asian people in the video, you know, and they're not offended. They wouldn't be in the video. And I don't understand why people got to bring up that stuff again, like other things. Who cares? Like, seriously, like, you can sit there and bully people and say what you want, say, I'm offended. You tell me why you're offended. Tell me. You're probably not even of that race, but you're offended. And how about the people who aren't offended? You know, so why is it okay for you to be offended and fuck something up for somebody and millions of other people because you're a dick, because you have low insecurity and you want to find dislike and hate and everything? I'll rant about that in my closing. There's another part in here that she brings up. Hopefully you can hear it better than whatever that example was that I heard. Where is it? 7:15. Well, everything's on point here. All right.
There are a lot of people that enjoyed those videos, but I have privated all of them because I don't think that making jokes about your gender is funny. And I know that there's a lot of people that struggle with their identity and that have varying fluid identities or anything. And I just don't want content in the world that's like, I don't know, just doesn't make sense. You know, it doesn't make sense. It can be hurtful, it can be harmful, and I don't want it there. Another thing that I would like to address is when people tweet at me, I can't believe you would be friends with this person or follow this person that's racist or, you know, done these terrible things. And the only thing I would like to say is that I'm just a person trying to navigate the world the same way that you are.
Right, now this is where she starts getting like really emotional upset, and I start getting really emotional upset myself. And all right, I understand. This is probably one of the least hateful human beings you can ever meet on the planet, and one of the most genuine people you'll ever meet on the planet. And the fact that she has to sit there and say that she doesn't want to offend people of, you know, genders, races, of anything of that nature is just sad, because she shouldn't have to do that. Nobody should have to do that. And the fact that people are going to sit there and make assumptions that she does that is you should be ashamed of yourself. And it's a fucking disgrace. It's a disgrace to yourself as an individual. It's a disgrace socially, and it's a disgrace to humanity that you can sit there and do that. Because to question people on anything that they live in their life because they might be friends with somebody or make content that might be controversial to you or whatnot is silly. If you can't sit and laugh at yourself, then you have a problem. That it's just, I think, is that she shouldn't have to say what she had said, and that she doesn't want to put out things, because she doesn't do that. I'm sorry, but she doesn't. And you just, whoever brought it up or brings it up or whatever else, you're just wrong. You're straight up just wrong. And you're a terrible human being and a terrible person for doing such a thing. And then I have this last piece here. Kind of lasts a little bit, but we'll play it out in closing here for her section. Then I can go off on my closing rant about all this.
And I'm not trying to let anyone down or hurt anyone or upset anyone. I'm just not. That being said, I've privated a lot of my own content. I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't want to offend anyone. I don't. In case you guys haven't noticed, there's no sponsors on this channel. I'm not trying to sell you anything. Like, I'm literally just here to have a good time. And I don't think I'm having a good time. And it seems like maybe some other people aren't having a good time. So for now, I just can't exist on this channel. Hopefully I've taken down anything that would upset someone. And I hope you know that that's just not my intent. That's not what I ever set out to do, to hurt anyone's feelings or to make anyone feel bad. So I don't want to be like upset while I say this, so give me a second. So I think I'm just gonna move on from this channel for now. I don't know if that's forever. I don't know how long it's gonna be. I want to make sure that the things that I put into the world are not hurting anyone. And yeah, I'm just...
Alright. Hold on, let me just stop that screen record. Alright, the simple fact that, again, that she had to sit there and say what she didn't, what her intentions weren't, is just stupid, because she doesn't have to do that. She doesn't have to do any of this, actually. She could have just gone off the platform and said, go fuck yourself. You know, I'm tired of this shit, and I don't need to deal with it. But she's not. She's an upstanding person who understands who you people are that are her admirers and who have looked up to her and grown up with her. And she's given you her truth. And, you know, that's something that's rare in life in general, where a lot of us wouldn't take this approach. And I feel like seeing somebody of such a stature and who's held in such a high regard in a community such as the YouTube community, which I am not familiar with. I'm really not. I mean, I watch YouTube all the time, but I only watch specific things, and there's a few people that I enjoy, but I don't know it as like this community where everybody knows all these content creators and the drama and all this crazy shit that goes on. And all I do know is that she's not involved in any of that. And that's what's made her so great. And the fact that someone like this, of this stature, is leaving the platform because of a couple of assholes in this world who hate themselves or whatever else, or had some sort of agenda, is a disgrace to anything that's online. It's a disgrace to the internet. It's a disgrace to YouTube. It's a disgrace to humanity. It's a disgrace to everything. And the fact that I'm even making this video is about her is terrible, because honestly, if I was ever going to make a video or a podcast or mention her, it would be in great remembrance of her and what we had and what she had done for me. So I'm gonna bounce off of that and kind of just roll out and close out here. There's a problem today, and we live in this world where we all know, and 2020 has been the biggest shit show that I think most of us have lived through. You know, especially if you're under 30, you definitely haven't seen anything or probably experienced anything. This is generalizing here. That's been so fucked up and crazy. And, I mean, there's a combined bullshit meter of social, of physical, and health, and all this stuff is just thrown in, and they're all off the charts. You know, we can't go out. We got to wear this. We got to do that. This is closed. That's closed. And all this shit that we have never experienced. Most of us have never experienced. No, most of us don't care to experience. And it's become a hassle to live. And it's a burden to go through daily life for most of us. I've been fortunate. I haven't really been affected by this on my own life, with the exception of my parents. But that's neither here nor there. The problem going on today between these pointless protests. And yes, I'll say pointless because they've done nothing but cause problems, because the protests going on are for the wrong reasons. And not the wrong reasons. Well, actually, they are for the wrong reasons. Not everybody's there for the wrong reasons, but there's a lot going on for the wrong reasons and with the wrong approach is what I meant to say. But that was last podcast. We'll talk about this one real quick. Now, with everybody, with the statues being taken down and history trying to be erased, people are literally trying to rewrite what's going on in this world. And they are not accepting the past. And as a country, as individuals, and as a society, we need to understand the past in order to better our present and our future. And by erasing it, you're trying to make it not exist. And when something doesn't exist, that means you're trying to make something start at zero. And the zero we are at now is chaos. And that's stupid. And that's wrong. Because you don't start off necessarily with chaos in what's supposed to be a civil society. In a country that millions of people every year come to better their lives. And we are the laughing stock of planet Earth right now. We literally are. And it's pathetic and it's sad. Because a bunch of people, the small minority group of people, I want to say probably in the low single-digit percentages, are upset about things. And the problem we have in this world is that we give in to these small percentages in minority numbers way too much. It doesn't matter if 90% of people are okay with what's going on in this world and life socially. It's that 10% that fuck it all up. I'm sorry, but it does. And that's not fair. It's not fair because we are forced to adjust to what makes you uncomfortable. And the world doesn't work that way. It doesn't. And by ripping down statues, saying this didn't exist, that didn't exist, and you owe me this, and that's upsetting, your hat is too red, those letters are upsetting, those 4 letters are makes you a racist and whatever else. It makes you a weak person. Offended people are weak. That's it. People take offense to things because they're weak. I didn't give you that offense. You took it. Hence the words took offense. You made a choice. And you chose to be upset by something. As opposed to sitting there and maybe trying to educate the person or the situation or yourself, you decided to be upset about something because you're weak. Because you have no way else to sit there and explain to yourself why that exists or why that's there, what I can do about whatever the situation is that offended you or the word or whatever it is. And you either sit there and scream at the top of your lungs and have a temper tantrum like a child. And that's exactly what's going on now. People who are offended and have this cancel culture bullshit going on, they're all a bunch of grown up. I won't even say grown up, but they're all they're all adult aged toddlers who are crying about things that didn't offend them 4 months ago, but all of a sudden do. People are digging and constantly digging in people's pasts. I don't like Jimmy Kimmel, but he went and did offensive things. Fine, whatever. In the name of comedy, fine. I don't give a shit. I think he's a dick, personally. I'm not a fan of his by any stretch of the imagination. And anybody who makes a living off of just ragging on people when you have no right to do that is just a dick. But they have a right to do that per Constitution and free speech and whatever else. Problem is that when his counterparts like Roseanne Barr do something the same or similar, all of a sudden the world is at their throats. Because you have a certain affiliation or belief in politics that you are all of a sudden wrong. The problem is rules need to go universal. They need to be for everybody. And if you're going to be offended by something that's so menial as a word or a costume, and I will call them all that, then you have a problem. If those people went out and did use those words or dressed in those costumes to go out and to purposely be offensive and cause harm, yes, then you can have a problem. If they are done with no malicious intent, then who the fuck cares? Seriously, who cares? Now, if the rules are going to be universal, then you need to understand that if you are constantly offended, like these people on the streets screaming about statues, screaming about ripping down the statues or that oppress, a race of people, besides the fact that it was paid for by actual slaves, then you seriously need to understand that you screaming and you hating and you being obnoxious gives me the right to go into your neighborhood and be offended by the color of your house, the color of your car, and the color of your clothes, or the shoes that you wear, or the hairstyle that you design. I can be offended by that because you said so. And I can go to your neighborhood, to your car, or to you and scream about it and hopefully have it removed. And if it is removed or it's vandalized or whatnot, you need to be okay with that because those are the rules that you set. When you allow people to be offended and rip down statues or hold on, someone check my dogs there. Destroy things and vandalize things, then you are opening a huge can of worms. And if you can allow it one way, then you got to allow it in every way. And that's the problem. There's no law and order that's being imposed on this until more recently in the past few days. So when you have governors and mayors saying, go ahead, go do it, then you know what? If you go to their houses and you go do it, they shouldn't have a problem with that. If you want to defund the police because you're offended and upset about, a few bad seeds, then you should not have any security for you whatsoever because the rest of us can't. Because we can't afford private security, listening Minnesota. Okay? That's not fair. We know that none of this is fair, but you're just making it worse. You can't have it one way. Being offended is a choice. It's just like fear. You're taught it. And you can choose to get over those fears, or you can choose eventually to not be offended. But you can, if you want to continue to ruin the lives of other people because you can't take a joke, because you can't leave something alone, then you're just going to live a life of complete and utter demise. You are. You're going to go to shit. You're going to become nothing productive, because none of this is productive at all. Not even remotely productive. None of this does anything well for anybody. You're not making anything better. You're not fixing a problem, because there isn't a problem to that degree based off of that one decision of being offended by a word or by a fucking a sculpture or whatever, or a video. I mean, stop. You know how you don't get offended by a video? Just don't watch the video. Don't support that creator. Good. You're done. Bye. Never have to worry about it again. It's like they always tell you, if you don't like what you see on TV, change the fucking channel. That's it. Stop ruining for the people who find entertainment and enjoying that. Don't tell me that if I disagree with you, I'm wrong. Because that's not how it works. That's not how this world works. That's not how democracy works. Okay? So what you're basically doing is you're trying to make everything one fucking way, and then you're trying to make it your way. And I'm sorry, but all you're doing is trying to turn this beautiful country that we live in this beautiful society mixed society of people, and you're trying to turn it all into communist shit. And not in a necessarily maybe in a political way, because you might not understand it, but you're trying to tell people what to think, what to do, and what to believe in. And that's not fair, and that's not right. And you try to do it, you think, by screaming and yelling and being violent. I'm sorry, but those are acts of violence. That is hate speech, by telling the one race that they're wrong or another race is more correct. That's wrong, and that's stupid. and you want to get rid of it. You want to cancel it. People need to lose their jobs for a decision they made, 2 decades ago. It's just stupid. It's dumb. Because when it happens on one side, if you happen to be a liberal or a leftist, you're okay and you get a pass. You could have a potential presidential nominee for a party who has a history of using offensive language, and you give them a pass. Where you call the president a racist when he's never even said a racist thing at all on record while in office, or maybe before he has, I have no idea. Nothing's popped up. In comparison to what's going on with, the Democrats, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. And that just tells you that, after they say a few months ago that no one's above the law, they are proving that they're putting people above the law. The offended people can get away with doing anything they want. They can break shit. They can fucking yell at you. They can incite violence. There's videos out there of them not throwing the first punch, but doing everything they can to get you to do it so they can say that they didn't. That's ridiculous. You can only push human beings so far before somebody snaps. When I see someone go up to on the news and someone's gone up and shot up a group of people, I'm not surprised. I'm not. And nobody should be surprised. Because none of this is peaceful protesting. You know why it's not peaceful? Because the protests are going on. People know that the protests are going on and violent things are happening. Whether those people are using those protests as a shield or a barricade to start violence, if they're not part of that particular protest, it's still part of the violence. I'm sorry. Rather than do it right. First of all, 99% of these protests aren't even done properly with permits. Okay? So you're breaking the law to begin with. So when you see cops trying to push you out of the way, it's because you're breaking the law. So screaming at them doesn't do anything. Holding up a sign doesn't do anything. All you're doing is creating more anger. You're creating more offended people, and then the people who aren't offended, you're pissing them off. Okay? Nothing's happened in the past 2 months except more racism, more hate, and more disdain for things that nobody hated and nobody had a problem with, and you're creating problems. Okay, if things were as big a deal as they claim to have been, this wouldn't be a thing that's happened the past 2 months. It wouldn't have been. All right, it would have been something that started slowly, or was brought up, and people kind of moved with it and kept with the movement. But the fact that all of a sudden people hate things or are offended by things and thrown off by things, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. And you can't go on with your life, being so negative. Now, I'm done with this rant. I mean, in all honesty, I'm so fed up with all the shit and all the stuff, the fact that people got to tiptoe and all this shit. It's bullshit. So in closing, I want to say, at some point, we all got to get tired of doing everything the opposite of what we were taught. Now, in my generation, we're told as kids that sticks and stones can break your bones, but names will never hurt you. But all of a sudden, I don't know when people started teaching that, but now all of a sudden, everybody's bent out of shape and upset about things, and it's offended by these words and these names and everything else. And rather than having a dialogue and talking about it, which we should, they yell and they scream and they post blame on everybody else but themselves. We live in a world where you're going to tiptoe because you have conservatives have to tiptoe and hide the fact that they have conservative beliefs or right-wing beliefs, because there will be violence against them. You have a Trump sticker on your car can get there's a chance your car could get destroyed. You have a placard in front of your house that supports our president of the United States. Your house could get vandalized. You wear a hat, you could get beat up and have that hat stolen. Does anybody see how ridiculous that is and what that does for society? It does nothing positive. If anything, it only brings the negative. And that's absolutely stupid. Really sit and think about how stupid everything is right now in this world on a social basis. You have a a movement going on that steals money from its donors and doesn't show you anywhere where it goes. All right? That preaches racism and doesn't actually follow through with whatever the title of their movement is. And there's more evidence of the negative impact of that group than there is a positive impact. You live in a world where people are allowed to hide their faces and get away with violent acts and inciting violence, and all in being anonymous because they're too pussy to do it themselves as themselves. You know, we live in a world where militias go, or people who think they're militia believers go out and shoot groups of people, you know, because they were finally pushed to the edge. And these anarchists come out in this world where they feel that having no government and no honor in law and order can exist. And they start their own city, and they look to the government for assistance in the law to help them. How ass backwards is all of this? How terrible is it on a whole? We can't live in cohesion when so many branches of hate and disdain exists. Nobody even knows where to go. Nobody even knows how to properly act or what you can properly say because somebody's going to be bent out of shape. I shouldn't have to tiptoe through life on a regular basis because I'm afraid some asshole is so weak that they gotta feel necessary to be heard and to scream. And I don't tiptoe through life, by the way, but because nobody should. If you're gonna be bent out of shape about what I say, tell me why. Talk to me. We can discuss it like adults and human beings. But you screaming at me or me screaming at you, or you being a friend and blocking me and not being, it's ridiculous. And I think we all need to sit and really look at ourselves. And I closed out last week the similar way, is look at ourselves and stop finding ways to ruin it for other people. Stop finding ways to offend the people who do not deserve to be offended. And stop finding ways to make a bad situation worse. I hope that someday we can get back to a world where nobody cared to the point that they supposedly care now. Nobody overthought the situation. Nobody hated people for what they believe or what they wear. I mean, it's the complete opposite of how we are told to be. Be yourself, they tell you. But don't be yourself unless yourself is what I believe. Really think about that. Please, think about that. And I think my rant is over for this week. And I hope everybody can move on with their lives and eventually see past all this bullshit. And I wish you all the best. And if you're one of these weaker minded people and you actually chose to be offended by this, then you can go fuck yourself. And you really need to go home and look in the mirror and then look further inside of yourself. Thanks again, folks. And until next week, next time, we'll see what's going on in this world and what's happening. I'd love to get back to the regular 90s speak, but there's so much shit that pops up that bothers me. And I think that we all need to look at. So just know that, Jenna, I support you. Not that you're listening to this. And your admirers are upset, just as upset as I am, and we wish you the best, and we hope that, someday you return in some way or another and share your wisdom, your joy, your everything, and your genuine personality with the world once again. And till next time, folks, thank you and goodbye.